For the sake of Allah most charitable and most lenient, the present section is about the jinn. An animal which can be tracked down in every one of the folklores, religions and societies of the world. In any case, maybe similarly as many individuals trust in them, equivalent number of individuals won't trust once in a while in the far-off towns. Evil jinns are considered liable for each issue. Furthermore, in some cases in the metropolitan urban communities, jinns are viewed as just a fiction. However, one thing is sure, that the idea of jinn goes as far as possible back to the idea of human beginning. Be it antiquated Mesopotamia or be it the old religion of Zoroastrianism. Some of the time doubters believe them to be just antiquated names for infection and microorganisms. Taking into account antiquated individuals uninformed about these minute creatures who can cause illness. What's more, a few cynics considered jinn just an extravagant name for insidious doubters. Be that as it may, in truth, absolutely no part of this is really near the real world, and in the present section, I'll enlighten you regarding the jinn. In any case, as I have previously let you know that deductively we can see or recognize 0.0035% of this universe. Then very much like holy messengers, to investigate the jinn we should depend the wellsprings of religion. Furthermore, my essential source will be Quran and Hadith, and later in this part, I will show you the long history of jinn in human records. Furthermore, I'll part this point into 4 fragments. In the main section I'll educate you regarding the presence of jinn. What's more, their sorts, and I'll introduce you my concentrate on their appearances. In the subsequent portion, I'll make sense of you the distinction between a jinn and an evil presence. I will let you know how the concept of evil presences is fundamentally unique in relation to the jinn. In the 3rd section, I'll enlighten you concerning a certain and very strong jinn, who has experienced the longest, and doubted the most grounded, and is the most remarkable of all the jinns. What's more, in the last section of this part I'll educate you regarding another certain jinn who has been with us since the day we were conceived, a jinn perpetually living with us. On the whole, what is a jinn, all things considered? I'm certain every one of you know about the Arabic word jinn, which in a real sense signifies imperceptible. This is the root word for every one of the ensuing words that are undetectable, for example, janeen, the undeveloped organism in belly. Yet, what we will discuss with regards to this word jinn is an animal especially alive and a particularly eating and dozing animal. Furthermore, for what reason can our eyes not see them? The response lies in Al-Quran. We made the jinn with a furious fire of fire, and before the people we made the jinn with a fire of fire. Allah has made these creatures with a synthesis different than our own, and Aisha reports that Prophet Muhammad informed that Allah made holy messengers with nur, a virus light, the jinn with fire, and people with what has been clarified for you. It makes one thing extremely certain, that like the heavenly messengers, jinns are made of material which has not been cleared up for us, and we couldn't in fact see that material yet. For what reason can we not see that material? I have proactively made sense of that in the part of heavenly messengers. The jinns are referenced multiple times in Quran. In fact, one whole part of Quran is named after Tam, Surah Jinn. Taking into account this, a Muslim can't dispose of the presence of the jinn as a separate creation like us. Presently, if you were to ask me, what do jinns look like? I'll ask you, all things being equal, how might you characterize a creature? You can't characterize a creature. Since each creature has a remarkable physical cosmetics, who might you call a creature? Would you depict a lion? Or on the other hand a giraffe? A slithering crocodile? Or on the other hand a snake? A human physical cosmetics is almost similar: 2 eyes, 2 legs, 2 arms, a nose. Assuming there is any distinction, it is of resemble, size and elements. However, creatures have different physiology from one another incomparably. The various types of jinn appear to be unique from one another. Later I'll clear up them for you in extraordinary subtleties. The jinns are a very assorted making of Allah. Abu Salba Kashni detailed that the jinn are of 3 sorts. The main kind has wings and they can fly. The subsequent ones can move their shape into snakes and canines, and the third are the ones who go back and forth. This hadith plainly tells that there are some jinns who continue to fly overhead. Space and distances mean essentially nothing to them, and it is affirmed by the refrain in Surah Jinn, where the jinn are conversing with one another, that before the Quran was uncovered, we used to sit overhead and tune in. This particular occurrence is additionally made sense of in Surah Aqaf, that we drove a gathering of jinn towards you so they might hear the Quran. This occurrence occurred in the valley of Nakhla, where Prophet Muhammad was offering the request with his partners, while a gathering of jinn from the valley of Nazabian focused on them. Yet, I need to let you know the whole episode, since that will let you know how do the jinns think and act. After Muhammad was given the prophethood, the jinns were forbidden to stow away and tune in overhead. Also, flares were tossed at them, assuming they attempted to go. Also, this was the explanation the jinns were attempting to sort out, while en route to Tahama. Passing from the valley of Nakhla, they heard the Prophet discussing the Quran and told one another that, by God, this is the motivation behind why we can't tune in from the skies any longer. What's more, it was then, when the refrains of Surah Jinn was uncovered to the Prophet, that, tell them, I have been uncovered that a gathering of the jinn have heard Al-Quran. What's more, said that we have heard something odd. Zubair container Awam went with Prophet that evening, and Sufyan reports that those jinn seemed like layers over layers of the foreboding shadows. What's more, Imam Baqi further explains that they were either 7 or 9 jinn who waited around the Prophet shaping a circle. As far as I can tell, a woman once let me know when she saw a jinn in a structure, as though heat gleaming from an extremely hot surface. The main distinction was that she experienced the intensity was very yellowish in variety. He was an incredibly tall jinn, sitting his knees bowed back as though hanging tight for something. Abdullah Receptacle Masood reports about these imperceptible jinns in his report, called The Evening of the Jinns, and he says, when we were with Prophet and the Prophet was mysteriously gone, we had to go tracking down him in the valleys and mountains. However, we were unable to track down him. Also, we were apprehensive, accepting Prophet was grabbed or most obviously awful, killed. Abdullah reports that it was one of the most exceedingly terrible evenings for us. At the point when the sunrise was close, we saw Prophet slipping from the cavern of Hira. Furthermore, when we announced this to Prophet, he let us know that he was visited by Jinn the earlier night who welcomed him to go with them to teach. Abdullah reports further that Prophet, then, took us with him. Also, showed us their impressions and, surprisingly, their fire. Masruq further reports about those jinns who heard the Quran, that Prophet Muhammad was alarmed about those jinns by an acacia tree. However, I was unable to track down a reference on the off chance that it was that very night, the evening of the jinn, by Abdullah ibn Masud. Or on the other hand an unexpected night in comparison to that in light of the fact that jinns had visited Prophet on various events. One more sort of jinns are like snakes and what's more, Abdullah ibn Abbas reports that snakes are a distorted sort of the jinn, very much like the offspring of Israel were twisted into monkeys and pigs. Abu Sa'id Khudri had a nephew who was recently hitched. Before very long, the skirmish of Azab was started. During that time, he requested a short time away from the Prophet, endorsed yet encouraged him to take the lance with him. At the point when him arrived at his home, he saw his better half remaining in the entryway. The scene threatened him. So he turned his lance towards his significant other, who said, "Try not to be hurried. First come and see what drove me out." When he went into the house, he saw a corrupt-looking snake staying there. He needed to toss the snake out utilizing his lance, however the lance unintentionally hit it. Also, seriously harmed the snake. Abu Sa'id reports that we don't have the foggiest idea what occurred straight away. Whether my nephew killed the snake first or the snake killed my nephew first. Some other time when his family mentioned Prophet to ask that may he get by. However, Prophet encouraged them to appeal to God for his pardoning. What's more, expressed, a portion of the jinn have become Muslims. In the event that you see them, caution them threefold for 3 days, and on the off chance that you actually see them, to kill them. You might kill them. That profane snake in the place of Abu Sa'id's nephew was really a jinn. In the year 1932, Sharif Jafar distributed a book and he composed, assuming that we had the option to see the jinn. They could appear to us as half people or half monsters. This was extremely intriguing in light of the fact that a hadith of Prophet affirms it. Ibn Abi's dad had a date ranch and he used to take care of it without anyone else. On one occasion he saw that dates are vanishing from a specific spot. At the point when he noticed, he saw somebody remaining there, of the age of a young man. He passed him the good tidings, to which the animal answered benevolent. And afterward he asked, "Are you from the people? Or on the other hand from the jinn?" Furthermore, he told that he was from the jinn. Furthermore, Ibn Abi's dad noticed his hands, which resembled the paws of a canine, having fur like the paws of a canine. Further, the jinn said, "The jinns know that I'm one of the most impressive ones." Ibn Abi's dad asked, "Why do you take?" "What's more," he answered, "that we have been educated that you are the person who likes to give noble cause, and I thought I ought to take my portion." That jinn appeared to Ibn Abi's dad as it were that he had half changed into a canine. As per hadiths and verifiable record, the jinn have showed up in the canine structure, maybe more than some other. However, before I delve into subtleties of those hadiths and records, I believe you should know that these shapeshifters, it appears as though chthonic creatures, meaning the people who slither in the soil, appear to have a As indicated by original Muslim researchers like Ibn Khazar, before the people. The world was possessed with the jinn and the evil presences, and he takes the reference from Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu that 2,000 years before Adam, alayhi salam, jinns meandered the earth. Ibn Khazar talks about another animal, even before the jinns, called hins and canisters, meaning devilish spirits. Also, that Allah forced somewhat strong jinns on them, who supplanted them from this world by killing. Also, fundamentally it was this butcher, which brought the worries up in heavenly messengers that, for what reason do you make an animal that kills hins and containers are not referenced in hadiths? Be that as it may, clearly found in verifiable writing. For instance, another reference is from a Moroccan researcher Abdullah Syed Habib, that hins and receptacles were a terminated species before Adam. Another reference is from a pursued book from Al-Jahiz, called The Book of Creatures, that basically, hins and receptacles were a frail creation contrasted with the jinn. Did hins and containers truly existed? Just Allah knows best. However, after they killed hins and containers, gradually the jinn as well became insubordinate and mutinous. What's more, viewed themselves as the genuine leader of this world. In his analysis, Imam Sudi reports from Mara container Masood and different allies, for instance Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, that when the jinn turned out to be too defiant, it was then, at that point, when another jinn, who used to live in sky among the holy messengers. What's more, about whom, I'll let you know in extraordinary subtleties. In the third 50% of this part he was shipped off earth with different holy messengers, constraining jinn to go to the islands and backwoods. The intriguing thing is that during my exploration a significant part of the point-by-point data about the types of evil spirits was tracked down in the way of life of Inuits living in the islands of Canadian North Pole. Inuit local area lives nearer to North Pole, and in their way of life, I tracked down the depictions of, in excess of 3,500 devils. Also, the second biggest subtleties in one of the most antiquated religions of the world, Zoroastrianism. In any case, previously, I present you millennia-old writing about the evil spirits. In the illumination of Quran and Hadiths, I need to depict demons for you. In 3 significant books of Hadiths there is a report made by Jafar Canister Abdullah that Prophet Muhammad said, "Try not to allow your creatures to meander out in dim and get back to your youngsters inside the home, since this is the point at which the evil spirits emerge. Until the night turns out to be a lot hazier, then with the name of Allah, close your entryways, with the name of Allah put out the lights. What's more, with the name of Allah, cover your water pot and the wide range of various pots, and on the off chance that you not have any cover, place in the middle between. Evil presences have areas of strength for with the haziness." Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu reports that Prophet peace be upon him said, "Assuming that you hear the chicken around evening time, ask Allah for his favors on the grounds that around then, the chicken, is checking a holy messenger out. What's more, when you hear the jackass bawling around evening time, request Allah's absolution in light of the fact that around then, it is taking a gander at an evil presence." There is one more reference to the night's dimness in the hadith, that on the off chance that individuals knew the risks of going around evening time, no one will go around evening time alone, ever. Other than night, there is one more reference in hadith, for the long periods of evil presences. That don't ask when the sun is setting or the sun is rising on the grounds that these are long stretches of devils. Whenever Prophet used to take a gander at east, he would mourn and agree, trouble, that is where the dissidents will rise. Furthermore, that would be a devilish century. Prophet likewise precluded his allies to sit in half daylight and half conceal on the grounds that is the devils sit. These reports give a fair record of how evil spirits think and act, yet their appearance is explicitly depicted in specific different reports. Katata container Nomen reports of a particularly dull evening. Furthermore, it was coming down frightfully. I went to Masjid Nabawi to say the night's request. At the point when the Prophet finished his request, he took a gander at me and asked with a shocked that what brought you here at this hour. Katata answered that I didn't believe you should ask alone, as not many would come in downpour. So I came to supplicate with you. Prophet answered that when you complete your request, remain where you are except if I return. At the point when Prophet returned, he was holding a branch from a date tree, strolling on it. He gave that branch to Katata and said, in your non-attendance an evil presence came to your home. Hold this branch immovably and keep it with you until you arrive at your home, and when you see a structure toward the edge of your home, hit it before you talk anything. Katata says, when I left the mosque, that branch shined like a fire, and when I arrived at home I found everybody snoozing. What's more, there was some sort of a creature in a corner whose whole body was covered with long thistles, and I began to beat it, until it escaped my home. That evening, Katata saw an evil spirit in a body covered with thistles. A creature looking like to a porcupine, yet as per my exploration, the most infamous type of a devil is a dark canine. Abu Zar Ghifari radiallahu anhu reports that Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him said, that a lady, a jackass, and a dark canine will mess up the request whenever strolled from front. Abu Samit says that I asked Abu Zar, that what is the distinction of dark, red or a yellow canine? Abu Zar answered that I posed Prophet a similar inquiry, and he said, a dark canine is a devil. Meaning an evil presence frequently appears as a dark canine, and in my exploration I tracked down numerous hadiths about devils as a dark canine. One of the most established notices of a dark evil spirit canine is found from the ancient Egypt. Called the Cerberus, they used to draw its picture on their pots. Furthermore, antiquated Egyptians frequently composed the names of their evil presences in fundamentally red ink, which shows the high status of devils in their folklore. Furthermore, another fascinating thing is that the antiquated Egyptian word for devil and loved master is something very similar. I will educate you regarding those Egyptians in subtleties in 14th part. However, since the year 1400s, you will see the presence of a dark canine in European papers over and over. Some of the time in 1856, a dark canine is seen inside a French church. Despite the fact that the congregation's principal entryway is locked and a few times a huge dark canine is found in the fields of Belgium, wearing a broken steel chain around his neck. Some of the time in 1677, an enormous dark canine is seen at the memorial service of Richard Cable, who was well eminent for his evil practices. There was a definite record in a paper from the Isle of Man that the team of A sat tight for their skipper all during that time, yet the commander didn't come in that frame of mind. Of next morning, the chief at last came and revealed about a huge dark canine obstructing his direction, and that any place he turned, the canine turned as well and didn't allow him to pass. Jabir reports about one more request of Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him that once he gave. The sets of killing canine, regardless of whether it had a place with a Bedouin lady, yet later, Prophet prohibited us from this and requested to kill just a dark canine with 2 white specks over his eyes, for that is a devil. Be that as it may, evil presences are not just among the creature-looking jinns, they are additionally from the individuals who are imperceptible to us. Abu Darda radiyallahu anhu announced that, once during the request we saw Prophet saying, I look for Allah's asylum from you. The Prophet said, may the revile from the condemnations arrive. And afterward the Prophet rehashed the final words threefold. However, at that point he extended his hand as though attempting to snatch something from the air. At the point when the Prophet finished his request, we asked, Gracious Courier of Allah, today, we heard something from you which we never heard from you. What's more, you loosened up your hand too. The Prophet answered that it was a devil, endeavoring to consume my face with fire. So first I tended to it and requested Allah's security. Then, at that point, I reviled it from the condemnations, and afterward I attempted to snatch it. However, he withdrew. Or on the other hand, the offspring of Medina would have played with its cadaver, which would have seemed to be a weird circle. This evil spirit with the fire is by all accounts from a particular class of devils, on the grounds that, since a comparable evil spirit shows up in another hadith, the evening of another occurrence. That episode is accounted for by Abdul Rahman Container Khan Bash that one evening, devils begun to move down from mountains to go after the Prophet. There was a certain devil among them who had a furious fire of fire, and it needed to consume the Prophet with fire. In any case, it kicked frightened and it away to withdraw. Then the heavenly messenger Gabriel plunged to Prophet and said, Gracious Courier of God, say. The Prophet asked, What must I say? The holy messenger answered, Say, I look for asylum in all the commendation of Allah, from which nothing thinks for even a moment to surpass, neither great nor terrible, from the evil of all that he made. Furthermore, spread into the earth from the evil of all that plummets from the sky and rises into it, from the evil of all that rises out of the earth and spreads into it, and from the dissidence of constantly. Furthermore, from the evil of that which comes around evening time, with the exception of the one which brings the happy greetings. Gracious, lenient. And afterward by the desire of Allah the fire of that evil spirit, loosened. Jinns and evil spirits, both are demonstrated to come into close contact with people, and there are hadiths about it. One of which reports about an evil spirit tying 3 bunches behind the top of a resting individual. Another report is about an evil presence sitting in the nostril of a dozing individual as the night progressed. Yet there are hadiths revealing about devils residing in the house. That where there are 5 houses, or where there are 3 individuals residing, and they neither implore nor do they call for supplication, the evil presences assume control over that place. Then Surah Safat talks about the devils flying overhead. That the sky of our reality is brightened with stars and is safeguarded from defiant evil spirits. That they couldn't in fact hear the heavenly messengers, however assuming an evil spirit can hear something with covertness, then they are besieged with consuming